On the general election ballot, I don't like either candidate, I'll just skip. So, but I always vote, I always turn on vote. And we went through the pandemic, we all did that, and coming out of that, and I got involved in, started getting back into politics again, and we started the Cascade party in March of this year. And I've always been interested in political association and groups and people coming together. When we started Nirvana, we were associated with like-minded young people, and we made our own way. We put on our own shows in Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia. We had our own magazines, fanzines. We would photocopy things. This was before the internet. We distributed things. So we made our own communities and made our own way. And we weren't really interested in like mainstream music. We weren't interested in music on the radio. We weren't interested in like most mainstream music magazines. And so then one thing led to another, and Nirvana was like on the cover of all those magazines eventually. But I would say they came to us, right? So that thing happened, and so it's just trying to be with the Cascade parties, just be independent like that. So what can I tell you about the party is one of the things we're doing, if you don't know already, like we have our own social media. So like we found this open source app, it's called HumHub, and I did some research, and it looks like Facebook, it acts like Facebook, but it's not. We control it, and we uploaded it to our own server, and like we don't really have any issues with it, but if we did, we'd have to deal with them. We didn't have to call Palo Alto, California. And then we don't track users. We don't spy on you and your internet browsing. Like you already bought, you know how you buy something, you've already bought it, and then it comes up on your ads, like, okay? We don't sell you to advertisers, and we don't collude with government either. So we're completely independent. So like I could be here all afternoon self-indulging in my own frustration with like the media, but who wants to hear that, right? Let's just make our own media. So that's what we did. We just do our own social media. We're doing it. We have our own website. There's the summit is like our own party press, and we just put out information there. So that's the whole idea is to just be really independent and make our own way, and that could be the future of social media. Like we've all done all the major platforms, and then maybe the next phase of it is like just families will have their own private social media, or your neighborhood, or whatever you want to do, or if you're like in the toy trains or whatever your aviation or whatever your interests are, you can just kind of do that. So we're trying to break ground. You join our HumHub Cascade party, and there's this user agreement. And then nobody reads user agreements, right? It's good to read this one. It's not very long, but basically you declare that you're a member of the Cascade party when you press agree. And then that makes you a party member. And you have all the privileges of membership. You can vote on our officers. You can help ratify our platform. We have a draft platform right now, but it hasn't been ratified by the members, and we need to pass our bylaws too. So that's something we're going to be working on starting in August. We don't have any candidates in 2024, so we're going to just let the election happen, and we're going to just do our thing and try to build a party for 2025 and beyond. So we started this party in March, and so we're just kind of like we're trying to get everything lined up, like what do we need to do to be a party. So we just made this discovery that if you want to be recognized by the state of Washington as a bona fide minor party, you have to run a presidential ticket, and you only have the opportunity to qualify as a bona fide minor party once every 4 years. It's like the cicadas hatching. Or what are those ficas? Those ficas that they shoot they're like a cactus, they shoot the stem up. It's kind of rare, right? So for example, like say it's 2025 or 2026, and we have a 1,000 people in the stadium here, like, we have this new party, we want to get going, and you wouldn't have a chance to have the access to the same fundraising rules that Republicans and Democrats have. Okay, so Cascade Party, we're like, well, we better get on this and try to qualify as a party. So how do you qualify as a party? You need 1,000 ballot signatures. That's reasonable. Okay. You need to publish a notice in the newspaper, a legal notice. You know how when you read about like probate and all that stuff in the back of the paper? There was a legal notice here in the Tri-City Herald. It has to be at least 10 days before the event. And so we did that. And you have to have 100 registered voters attend your convention. And you need to get, so we're getting signatures and we're doing that. It's been haphazard, we rushed it, and so I'm a musician and I'm like the acting chair, so what are my resources? How do I pull people in? Like, let's put a band together. So it was already like the late April. The period is from May 5th to July 27th. The hour's getting late. And so I put a band together. I got a couple members from Giants in the Trees and Third Secret. Mark Pickerel, he's the drummer in Screaming Trees. He's the drummer in the first drummer in Screaming Trees. And then we have Kathy Moore. If you come to the show tonight, you'll see she's like Washington's premier guitar shredder. It's really great. But it takes a while to put a band together. You just gotta have rehearsals, you gotta gel and all that stuff. But I'm fortunate I found great people that we can all play together. So this is our second to the last convention. We've had a couple of conventions in Seattle, we've had it in Kelso, Vancouver, all over, like as much as possible, as I can get a band and commit to all these shows. And we're on our way to getting the signatures, but everyone counts. So that's why I'm not saying like, hey, we're we're not coasting by any means. You never know, like that's 1,000 ballot signatures. So we need at least like 1,400 signatures to do this, right? And so am I gonna be on the, so I was stupid enough to be nominated as the presidential nominee, right? Like who's gonna do it? Like nobody wanted to do it. Like, okay, I'll do it. And so we had a nominating convention. And James Carroll, per the Constitution of the United States, you can't have a president and vice president from the same state. So James Carroll, he's from Oregon. He lives like in Beaverton, and he's the national chair of the Benjamin Franklin Party. So check them out. And we had a convention, and we signed up. We have 10 electors. Right? So somehow if we win the state, we'll have, those are the 10 people, no 12, there's 12 electors. We have 12 electors. Those are the 12 people that have the right to vote for president. Because, that's a whole other issue. So, and it's really crazy rules too, like we might just be on the ballot in one state. So do the math. What's your path to the White House? It's just like, wow, really? You didn't have to ask that question. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. And then it's hard to get people to sign nominating petitions. You have to explain things on a case-by-case basis. It's like, well, we don't want to be on the ballot. In fact, we wrote a letter to the state saying that these rules are terrible. And don't make us do this. And there's a constitutional issue about forced speech. You just can't, the state, the government can't force people to say things. And there's a whole canon of law, precedents of law, that like you just can't force people to say things. And we got a reply from the state that says, well, we consider this a petition for a rule change. And that whole process takes time. There's gonna be, this fall, there's gonna be like public hearings and those kind of things. So, in the meantime, we're collecting the 1,000 ballot signatures. We're doing the best that we can. If we qualify, are we going to get on the ballot? Are we going to say, hey, don't print the ballots with us on there? We're still figuring that out. I don't want to do it. To tell you the truth, it'd be nice to just stay clear of all that stuff. People ask me, like, well, what do you think of the presidential 2024 election? And I'm just like, well, I haven't seen my ballot. And do you know who's going to be on the ballot? No. So So I just pivot away from that stuff. We're doing local politics. Again, it's about people just coming together. It's like, what is a political association? It's like people with shared needs and values coming together and amplifying their voices. And we forget that a lot too. It's just like, oh, we need to, there's too much money in politics, or there's a corporation, there's this and that. And those are valid perspectives, but we lose, I feel like we've lost that idea of like the political association, political parties. That's all in the First Amendment, where people can you express yourself, right? And people come together. It's just, see, that's another American thing. And so that's what we're doing with Cascade Party. It's like a demonstration of like what is possible. You can do your own social media. You can do your own media. And then you can, as a community, people with shared needs and values, you can amplify your voices. And you might be familiar with the Putnam study, Bowling Alone, how Americans don't really, like all that's kind of, people, 100 years ago, 1 in 3 Americans were like a member of a fraternal group, a community group, and that's really changed since like the 60s, right? So instead of trying to bring that back, which is, who knows if that's ever going to come back. I mean, the way time marches forward and society does its thing. So we're just like, hey, why don't we just have social media? Like, if you're going to waste your time online or doom scroll, might as well do it on the Cascade Party, right? Because that way, at least you're like participating, and you could like vote on things, and it's just trying to do things. And so even if you don't like align with our platform and what our goals are and what our needs are, at least you could take this idea to the group that you feel more aligned with, right? It's just like, it's a demonstration of like what the possibilities are. It's not just complaining, about this or that. It's just, we're trying to make things happen. Political parties are important. Political parties distill the issues for people. I don't understand every issue. Nobody really does. Legislators don't. They're generalists. They have so many bills and so many issues come across them that they have to vote on. They rely on lobbyists. That's the institutional memory, like in Olympia or City Council, whatever. There's experts, there's political science, and there's just the scope, individual scope of every like issue with political science. Who's going to take that all in, right? It's impossible. I can't do it, and I try to pay attention. So what does a political party do? It distills the issues for voters. So you're like, you look at your ballot, maybe you haven't had a chance to go over the voters pamphlet, and then, so you try to get a cue. We have these prefers party ballots in Washington, so they're kind of tough to negotiate, but it's just like, oh yeah, those are Democrats, they're the donkey, they're blue. Then you get a cue, like an association. They're the elephants, they're red, those are the Republicans, like you get that. So we're hoping like in the next year, as we develop our platform and we develop our profile, that you see the owl, we have the owl, the Cascade Party, that we could send a message to voters. So some voters would say like, yeah, this is great, I'm going to vote for them. Or they're going to run like hell. They just don't like the Cascade Party, which is fine because that's freedom. When you get your ballot, you get to choose how you want to vote. That's your right. So we're just saying, hey, we just need more choices. And you can do that in Washington State with our election system. We have a 2-phase system. The primary is going to be in a few weeks now. The ballots are coming. It's an August primary. And then just like you get all the candidates in the primary, and then the top 2 vote getters advance to the general election. So it'd be a goal of Cascade Party to at least get into the top 2 and offer a voice, a choice to voters. And especially there's a lot of elections are lopsided, uncontested, those kind of things. So and just do something different, something new. So that's pretty much like our what we're trying to do. So we've been like going 20 minutes. I don't want to take up your whole afternoon, but I like to be interactive because that's like most of us are online and we do that, so you can troll me or if you want or whatever. But I'm happy to like answer any questions. David Pakman?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
It's like independent media podcast, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I'd have to see what they're, what they're called. But thanks. Are you David Pakman?
He's like a resource where I have like this non-emotional kind of like he's lovely, but he's very analytical. So it's I guess for me it's like seeing it's like it could be a good platform.
Yeah. We with Cascade Party, we have a book club. It's not like fast food. It's like right now we're reading this book, American Sickness by Elizabeth Rosenthal, and it's just about the history and the present state of healthcare in America. If I could bring up policy, it's in our draft platform, just to give people an idea what we could be about, but it says that we support advertised pricing in healthcare. And in 2019, Congress passed and the president signed a law mandating advertised pricing. And then the healthcare providers are ignoring it. So that'd be a good question to ask if you want to know more about it, like check it out. That'd be a good question for the candidates for insurance commissioner. It's a wide open race right now. It's like, would you enforce advertised pricing? Right? Makes sense. It's like you hear about the $3,000 stitches and all those hidden things. It should be like you should know what. You look at the menu; it has the prices on here. And so the idea is like here in a strip mall, there'd be a place like Knees R Us, right? And you just kind of like you know how much they just do knees all the time, and you know how much you pay for them. And we don't have that. We have this big. There's a lack of transparency. So that's a thing to like to discuss. Just that it's not visceral politics. So yeah, Matt.
We have a couple of parties that have fairly what's called a extremely polarized issues. Do you necessarily your party, what is the process, what kind of things will maybe, what kind of things don't, does the party address?
Yeah, that's the thing with like we started the so what is like polarizing, and these kind of people, they choose sides and like what's our stance on this? I just shared advertised pricing, but we published this draft platform just to give a flavor of like what the possibilities are. But I've been accused of I'm a right winger. I'm a left winger. There's things about, there's people who wouldn't, last night they wouldn't sign the petition. She told me, she goes, I support social justice. And I'm like, well, so do I, but maybe she has a different idea of that. But I still was, we were congenial, and she's like, oh, you don't have to sign it. You don't have to sign the petition. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I mean, like, there's no tricks. Like, I'm not the guru. And then, yeah, we're going to have a platform, and it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of commitment for people to come together, and things are going to shake out. There's going to be people who aren't going to like it. Like maybe we'll just get all these members, and maybe I won't like the platform and I'll quit. It's like, that's just the way it goes. I mean, politics is like, it's not this, I don't want us to be this like mushy middle or just, politics is messy, and that's just the way it is, and you need to have a stomach for it. A lot of people don't, and do you really blame them? It's not for everybody. All you could really do is just vote, just participate and vote and cast your vote. But some people are obsessed with politics, but like this isn't a crusade. We're trying to get these signatures, but like in August, my schedule is wide open. I'm going to do this like Come Hub stuff and like some party things, but I'm not really. It's the holidays, right? August as we can, right? It's not a crusade. So we're just trying to do the best we can, and if anything, again, it's a demonstration not like demonstration of holding up signs, but like an example of what the possibilities are with like new forms of political association. There's this, I was inspired by this book, Millennial Makeover by House and Winograd. This book's like in 2014, these generational theorists. And then they analyze all these elections. They start with the Lincoln-Douglas debates. And their theory is like, that was a seminal election because, well, the Republicans, there was a realignment. The Whigs went away and the Republican Party came into being. And what was important is the telegraph. There was a new technology. And so they had the Lincoln-Douglas debates, and then look at the telegraph would go all over the country, and all these independent presses would report on it like right away. It was really revolutionary. And so then they go through like radio, television, 1960 election, Nixon, Kennedy, that debate, that first television debate was really important, really helped Kennedy. And their general thesis is with the internet, they say that whatever party or new party connects with the millennial generation through the internet will dominate politics for a whole generation. So we're trying to be part of some kind of realignment here. If we can don't make a lot of mistakes and have good luck, and hopefully we can bring people in, maybe the center lane or this kind of new kind of thing. All we can do is try. Again, it's not a crusade. And like I know some of my favorite bands were never popular, but they were seminal. Like they created a sound, and they made these musical statements that other bands were inspired by, and they were huge. These other the later bands did, but so basically, that's what my whole goal is with this. Is just to try to inspire people to say, hey, maybe we could do something different.
First of all, thank you so much for coming to Richland. A lot of people forget the Tri-Cities is one of the largest regions in the state, so very, very glad to have you here. I'm just curious about two things. The first is, are you more focused on local issues? One thing that you said that resonated with me was you have unopposed elections, which is something that we have around here as well. Or are you more focused on national and statewide issues? And are you still interested in alternatives like fair vote or ranked choice voting?
Our draft platform doesn't have any national issues right now. So it's like local things if you see it. And then as far as election reform goes, I've been following the Soto-Palmer case where they just redistricted the 13 districts here in the state. I wrote an op-ed about it. And then I know a lot about this from my experience with Fair Vote. We've dealt with the Voting Rights Act. Like Fair Vote would have contracts with the Justice Department to do voter education on alternative voting systems. So I got to learn a lot about the Voting Rights Act. And so you could read my op-ed online. I authored a amicus brief, but then the attorney said that because we were proposing this remedial plan, that it wasn't with the rules, but so we didn't, I don't want to get into the weeds with that. But here's what happened, it's like, in Washington, hi Mom. The Washington State has a redistricting commission. Voters in the 1980s passed a constitutional amendment for a bipartisan redistricting commission. And that started in Olympia. If you want to amend the state constitution, you need to get the legislature on board. And the legislators were so tired of fighting. It was since the mid-60s, or before, Washington was always fighting over legislative boundaries. And so the legislature passed the constitutional amendment, voters passed a constitutional amendment that we have a bipartisan redistricting commission. It was not perfect, but the magic of the commission was that the minority party had leverage to negotiate on the districts. And so they would make deals and they would go back and forth. And Washington was a model for redistricting in the country. And that's like the marquee, one of the marquee election reforms in the country. And other states have an independent redistricting commission. So in 2020, the commission came together, and then there was this specter of litigation that hung over the whole process. And they couldn't, it was dysfunctional. And the independent chair of the commission, the non-voting chair, she quit. She was so sick of it. And they passed the map, and a week later the map was sued under the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Yeah, UCLA Voting Rights Project was one of the plaintiffs. And so there wasn't even an election in the 14th district. They had to have expert testimony. They used evidence from the 2011 map for the as part of the proceedings, and then the judge ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. And here's the key, which is disturbing to me. And the judge said this in the ruling. It's just like, okay, well, I'll back up a little bit. So then they had an actual election. And it was in the 15th district, right? 14th or 15th? Which one? 15th, okay. So the 15th district elected Nikki Torres, a Latina. You know Nikki Torres, okay? And so it was the judge in the case said, well, it's nice that they elected a Latina, but she's a Republican. So apparently the Democratic Party platform is more attuned. Wow, really? And just to see that kind of partisanship. And so then they allowed the plaintiffs to redraw 13 districts. But our Constitution.
Did it 3 times and ended up with the original map. $5 million.
So they have. So there's a new map.
It's
So
the
they,
original map.
okay. So the plaintiffs drew the districts, but we have this constitutional protection that the commission draws the districts, and it's just not right. So this is what Cascade Party. This is what we're proposing as a remedial plan, because Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General, he refused to defend it, even though that was his job. So the court had to admit these intervener defendants, okay? And so with my experience with Fair Vote, is just like, in the Voting Rights Act of 1965, there's no remedy. It doesn't say you're gonna have single member districts, you're gonna go do this or that. The big parts of that are Section 2, which is what this lawsuit was, and Section 5, which is a whole other conversation. But, so there's like 60 years now of the Voting Rights Act and the case law, and most places that get a remedial plan, they settle for single member districts, majority minority districts. And it works, that's fine. But some places say, this doesn't really work for us. We want proportional representation. That's what Yakima wanted in the Montez case in 2014. They wanted a proportional representation. So what are remedial? So the defendants there was never any discussion of that kind of remedial plan. And I'm not going to get into I've been in the weeds with this enough on this case, but I'll just go into what our remedial plan is. So basically, we have 49 state house districts in Washington state, and each elects 2 representatives. And there's this position 1, position 2, right? That stuff, position 1, position 2, was invented by Olympia in 1966. That's not in the state constitution. That was a political decision. So what we're proposing is voters get 1 vote to elect 2 seats. You get your ballot, it says Washington State House of Representatives, vote for 1. And then you vote, and then the top 2 vote getters get elected. So you would elect Democrats here in the Yakima Valley Tri-Cities. You would elect Republicans again in King County and in suburban, maybe urban areas. And you could, there'd be more opportunities for Cascade Party. Because it opens a space for independents and third parties. It would still say prefers party. The ballot would be indistinguishable from what voters are used to. So like with ranked choice voting is a whole different voting experience. This would be the same thing. In fact, it's the same kind of voting system we're going to use here in a couple weeks, where the top 2 vote getters advance to the general election. Under our proposal, the top 2 vote getters would be elected. And this is in the Voting Rights Act. This has been scrutinized by the courts. There's a lot of international experience with it. It's an American version of proportional representation. We have proportional representation in the United States, but it's different. You go to Israel or like Germany, you need like 3-4% of the vote to get elected. Our remedial plan we call Top 2 Pro, you need 33.3% to get elected. You need 25%, maybe 20%. It depends on how many seats are up for elections. So the thresholds to get elected are a lot higher. It's a conservative version of proportional representation. And then it's candidate centered. When you vote in Israel and Germany, you vote for a party. You don't even vote for a candidate. There's a party list, and it has all the lists of the candidates. And then the party leaders has the most profile in the election, and she or he will go out there and like represent the party. But with American systems are candidate based. Americans want to vote for candidates. They don't want to vote for parties. So that's another thing we're doing with Cascade parties, just like espousing this kind of idea. If we had this top 2 pro is proportional. If we had that in Washington State, they would take a lot of the stakes out of our redistricting commission because voters would share representation. Again, you would have rural Democrats, you'd have urban Republicans. You know, we had, well, where am I going with this? So, yeah, so that's basically, I've done enough for proportional representation, but that's like, see, I get wound up about it, right? Because I really know this stuff, but I think I just kind of caught myself. I just kind of leave it at that. So I get another question.
So you talk about how the platform is still in its formative stages. Could you maybe walk us through the process a little bit of like how the party itself is still coming together and working on that, and is that through the social media platform?
Yeah, it's through the social media platform. That's how we get together.
So if we join that, are we part of that discussion?
Absolutely, you have all the privileges of membership.
Okay.
And yeah, we won't track you, we won't sell you to advertisers.
And then you also maybe talk about, and this is a little bit of a derivative, but I noticed that Yang was talking about the Department of Technology. Is that something that's sort of like part of all of that, as far as opening up social media and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm really not I'm like a bad libertarian. I'm not a very good libertarian at all, but I don't like even the sound of Department of Technology.
Yeah.
We have our own Department of Technology, we're just doing it ourselves. We don't need corporations, we don't need the state. We're just gonna do it ourselves. Yeah, on the platform, what we need is people who could bring some expertise in all these different fields. Like I know a lot about election reform, and I've studied campaign finance reform, a lot of that, like a lot of those issues too. But there's this things nobody knows about it. That's my scope. And if you know about healthcare or insurance or any kind of things, if you've worked in that field, that's what we need. And then most people, like we have like 130 members now, but most people, they're just kind of, they're reading and they're liking things, but nobody's commenting or doing things, which is fine too. Maybe that's what they're comfortable with. And so what we really need is that you can engage the best you can, and something comes up for a vote in the party, just have your say, just on it. So again, it's not a crusade. In a lot of ways, we're making it up as we're going along. So there's going to be mistakes. It's just we're trying to blaze a new path. It's just trying to do something different for the 21st century. And if it doesn't work for you, maybe it'll work for your other group that you want another group. So it's that's cool. We could still like have Thai food together, right? So we don't lose our humanity. Like, I hate you. Like, really? No, you don't. Why? Why did? Yeah, but then I have like my name is Joe1234@gmail. You're an asshole. But I would never tell that to you in your face because I'm a douchebag like that. You know what I mean? I like to hide. I like to hide behind anonymity.
I got a lot of friends like that.
Yeah, it's like that. What was that? The Milgram experiment where they shocked people. But it was behind you could shock people because they were behind a screen. Remember the Milgram? Then there was Stanford prison experiment. Remember that one? Which that predicted Abu Ghraib, where people in power abused like other people. So. But that's like we have these latent things that we do. So people are going to do what they're going to do. We're just going to do our own thing and try to make it up as we go along. It's not perfect. It's not easy to do this stuff. So, but I'll take another question. Hi, how's it going? Yes.
Following up on the social media thing, I have a little bit too much gray hair to have a big game in social media. So what you're looking at is kind of an intersection with the grain story, more of a grassroots level, but then with an intersection with millennials. Does that mean then kind of a place for the millennial, if that's in fact the direction to go, for millennials as a group where the values of the millennials in the conversation will rise to the top that kind of directs where the platform is?
It doesn't necessarily have to be millennials. It's just like the group and how we come together. There are some guardrails. There is that draft platform, which has repelled some people, which is fine because it's not for everybody, right? So, how do I answer that question? Yeah, it's just using new technology and just trying to do it in a different way and just trying to take advantage of it than not having like a Facebook group. And so even like what I find it tremendously satisfying is somebody puts 1 minute into our hum hub is 1 minute less than Facebook. And that's just, see, I'm easy to please, but that's huge, right? It's just like, yeah, it's different. And you're empowered. We're not tracking you. We're not selling you to advertisers. And maybe this could catch on. This might be the new phase in social media. Like people are going to go, they're just going to be tired of getting spied on and manipulated. It's like, let's do something different. I'm tired of it. I went online in 1992 for the first time. And I was on Usenet. Did you ever go on Usenet? Yeah, and all you had was just like this, I remember my email, you just had text. And then it was like, I was Krist at igc.com because it was the Institute for Global Communications was a carrier. Then I got this thing called America Online. And I uploaded it on my computer. And then I would download, it took 2 minutes to download the CBS logo. You know, like on CBS tonight. I'm just like, I deleted it. Yeah, it was just like, yeah. So I was never like into that mainstream stuff. I just find it boring. Really. Yeah, it's like watching the blue line of when you're downloading it. It's just driving me crazy. We're like 45 minutes into it. What do you think? Anybody have any more questions? We can have some more Thai food. Well, I have petitions here if you want to sign. I also have, and there's a flyer here with QR code where you could go to our Cascade party site. And I have my Krist card featuring, it's all free, nothing for sale. And it's a photo of me by Charles Peterson from 1991. And then that QR code's to my website, so that's kind of a shameless plug too. But that's like selling records if you want, and CDs. That's really forward-looking, right? Yeah, when I first saw my first CD, oh, that'll never take off. Yeah, downloads, what's that? So, oh, one more question, go ahead. Timothy.
Yes. Can I ask an off-topic question? Cascade.
I won't guarantee I'll answer it, but go ahead.
So, for decades, at least a decade, there's been a rumor going around the Tri-Cities amongst all the scene crowd, the musicians. Way back in the day, Nirvana played at the radio station, the high school radio station.
That Nirvana played at the high school radio station? I don't remember playing the Tri-Cities. I saw Black Flag playing Walla Walla in like 1984.
It was called Payback then.
Yeah, and then and this is what I get this question a lot, like where people tell me they went to high school with me or they know somebody who went to high school with me. My graduating class had 500,000 people in it. It's just like, oh yeah, oh sure. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, oh yeah, those are the days, yeah. This is my 40-year. 84. I was class of 84. It'd be 40. I'm not going to go because I'll just take selfies all night long. My manager calls me department store Santa because I just take selfies all the time. So I have this card because like, Chris, will you sign this napkin? I'm like, oh, no. So I have a nice card in case I can do something. Yeah, so, well, thanks everybody for coming out. So I'll be happy to meet folks. I'll be around for a while. I gotta go do sound check. We're playing tonight, Bonafide Band. Love Darts. Love Darts are amazing if you haven't seen them. So that's our convention. All rock and no talk. This was the talk part of it. So we just kind of like, and if you know people are gonna come and just want to enjoy music, that's what it's all about. So there's no, yeah. Thanks for coming. Thank you.